You still feel real connected to your ex, even though you know they weren't right for you, right? Even though they weren't right for you, you feel that was still my person, right? See, most people think they struggle to let go of their ex because they loved them so deeply, right? And they had so much passion with them and so much bonding and everything. But newsflash, that's not the real reason. So I'm gonna tell you right now why you're actually struggling to let go of your ex, even when you know you should. Truth is, the deeper emotional and psychological ties are the bonding agents that are keeping you with this idea that it's unfathomable to let go of your ex, right? That to where the idea of that sounds like the worst thing or the last thing you actually want to do, even though you know it's probably what's best for you to do. Now, I touched on this before in a couple other videos, right? When I broke down a lot of the, the hormonal balance and the hormones going on and firing off whenever we're trying to move away from our ex and some of the psychological things, right? But I really want to tie together for you the perspectives that gets created, right? The narratives, the stories that gets created in our minds as a byproduct of that emotional and psychological tie, right? Or those ties and all the chemical balances going on inside of you, right? I want to, because I think, it's helpful to understand the biological side of it, right? And what's going on inside of you that, kind of makes you really crave someone and all that. But I think it helps even more to pair that with the train of thought you get into, because that's the part that you struggle with, right? I can tell you all the amazing things about how your body works and how that influences your mind and all the chemicals and all the stuff going on. And you can understand, oh, that's why I still want to be with them so bad. But it's not going to help you as much with the actual thoughts themselves that are produced from you wanting to hold on instead of letting go, even though when your logic brain is telling you, hey, this doesn't make sense. That doesn't matter when your heart wants it, right? You still pine for them. You still go through the emotional drain, the stress, the void, the sense of loss. So I want to help you with that right now. The first main reason you can't let go of them is because you're addicted to the highs and the lows. Off and on relationships, and I don't just mean you have to break up fully and then get back together. That's probably the main offender. But even if in your relationship there's a toxic cycle of you guys being really happy together, and then there's points in your relationship where it goes drastically the other way and you guys are miserable together, right? That's still a high and a low relationship, off and on, right? But it's that repetitive cycle that really starts to trigger the dopamine effects inside of your body, right? Those hormones, to where it creates this reward and loss system to where your body eventually starts to become addicted to uncertainty, right? And this is how people that, are trying to date someone maybe, right? And you're trying to get close to the guy or the woman you're dating. And it feels like every time you're making some steps, some progress, and you guys are getting really close, all of a sudden they pull back. And it's like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, right? And they keep on pushing away. You're like, oh no, we were doing so great. And you fight and fight to get back to that high again. It feels amazing. Then they pull away again. And it creates this sense of what some people think is passion, right? Some people say, oh, when I date the guy or the woman that, just loves me to pieces, or they think I'm great and there's no issues. Oh no, I'm just turned off by that, right? I'm not really as motivated or into it. It's just something about it doesn't do it for me. But whenever they're going through that whole push-pull experience, now they're like, we just have so much passion and the love is so intense. That's because your emotional system, right? Your dopamine system is being manipulated. Your emotions are literally being manipulated to experience this sense of uncertainty as something to go chase after, because it gives you something to want that feels great and amazing when you have it. So when you guys are back on and you feel that extreme high, and then when things fall apart and they pull away from you or move away from you, or you guys break up or you're having distance or whatever, you feel that extreme low, it literally starts to create a drug-like experience for you. You become addicted to it, right? And think of it like, someone winning the Super Bowl and then losing the Super Bowl, or even any event or competition or something you've done to where you accomplished this big feat or this big goal and it felt like euphoric, like, oh, you're on top of the world. And then maybe the next year or something like that, you come to do the same experience again. Maybe it goes horrible or terrible, right? You start craving to have that great feeling again when you had it, right? Because that low, that real deep low, makes you really desire the high again because the low feels so bad. So you just do anything to get back to that high again. So the best way you start to combat this, right, where you're at right now with that craving of your ex, wanting them back, that same cycle, right? Because understand this, whenever you're going through this, the reason why it becomes addictive is because our brains are very trainable. And so your brain is designed to try to do things that allow you to feel good again. That's all it wants, right? Your brain and body want you to feel good because in a primal level, that must mean your needs are being met. You're surviving if you feel good, right? Because if you're going through pain, that's harmful, that you may not be doing well. You may be harmed or be taken out of here. So if it feels good, it wants to encourage you to go get the thing that helps you feel good, especially if the feel good is a really extreme and intense feeling good, right? Kind of sensation. So when your brain gets trained to this, then now it's naturally going to try to tell you to go, hold on, creates the stories, the narratives that tells you, hey, they weren't that bad. That was your person. Go get them back, all the things, right? To get that emotional hit, that high. So you have to remind yourself that whenever this is going on, understanding that missing them is not a sign that they are good for you, right? If anything, it's showing you that your brain has just gotten used to emotional instability. So keep remembering that little statement and run it like a loop in your mind. Every time you feel you really want to get them back, tell yourself, it's not that I'm missing them, not that they're good for me. My brain's just used to emotional instability. Then ask yourself, what can I do to start replacing the high that was them with something else in my own life on my own, right? Great thing to help you start to break that pattern. The second big reason you can't let go is you've built your identity around them. Meaning you don't just miss them, you miss the version of yourself that you were with them in your life. And so it's like mourning the loss of two people. You're not just losing them, this amazing person that you love to pieces by letting them go. You're letting go of who you felt you couldn't be without them in the equation. I know you've heard it before. I know you've probably said it yourself, maybe in some instances, if you're not saying it right now. Man, I've been someone I couldn't believe I could be, right? Like, he or she aspires me to be more than I ever thought I could be, or I can do anything with them behind me. I always felt so confident and I felt so reassured and I can go conquer a mountain with them behind me, right? Right. They pulled something out of me I didn't know I had in me, right? All those kind of things where you convince yourself that you literally can't be or won't be or not going to be the version of yourself that you were enjoying with their influence in the equation because you place all of the significance on being that person in their hands, that without them, you couldn't pull that out. But the reality of it is you are always whoever you're operating as long as you're doing the things to be that person. Yes, your ex may have shown you some things and poured into you and helped you cultivate some stuff that's inside of you that was maybe lying more dormant, but you have the ability to be that person without them, right? Whether they're there or whether they're not. It's a matter of you identifying with that individual and not tying that individual identity to them, right? And saying, I can't be this person without them in the equation, because that would be telling yourself a lie. And that's some of the stories we tell ourselves. So if you tied your confidence, your self-worth, or the future vision of yourself to the relationship, letting go of your ex feels like letting go of a part of yourself. So the way you fix this is you have to start redefining who you are outside of them, right? Which means you have to really start to turn inward and focus on self and start deciding, who am I going to be today going forward without them, right? Who did I like being with them, and how do I continue to be that individual without them, right? And start pouring all of your energy into you, right? Fostering and cultivating the person you want to be versus focusing on trying to get back this source you feel is a huge component to why you are being the way you've been all this time. I always say, if you find yourself having too much time to focus on your ex and what you feel you lost, then you're not focusing enough on something for yourself. You're not, focusing on a passion of yours. You're not working on stuff that brings you joy or your goals or growing and all the things. Every time you give real estate in your mind to someone that's no longer a part of your life that you already know is not good for you. Third reason you can't let go, you are confusing emotional attachment with love. See, you don't miss them that much. You miss the comfort, the validation and the familiarity that they gave you, right? You miss all those things that made you feel good in a safe space and in a safe way. So what your mind does naturally is it puts the face of all those things on your ex, right? They become the face of all that stuff. So it's like they become one with the comfort and all the things. Without them, those things don't exist for you. So therefore, your brain does its job. It starts making you think about all the good times, all the stuff that you're losing, and how it wasn't that bad. Yeah, it always, kind of got rough, but they were still awesome. They still made you feel love like no one else did. It's going to tell you all the stuff that if you actually focus on those stories enough and you really break them down and be fair with those stories and really paint the whole picture, you start realizing there's some holes in there. It's not as accurate as you wanted to believe it was, and actually they didn't make you feel as loved as much as you thought, right? Because then how'd you feel the lows that you felt to that degree if you felt loved all the time and reassured and safe? And you start realizing I only felt safe in certain moments or certain periods of time whenever we got back on for a week or whatever, or for 2 or 3. And then we, go bad for a month, right? To where you start realizing the times I felt actually loved and secure and things felt, comforting to me and validating were actually a lot less frequent than the times where I felt, unsure and uncertain, right? All those things. And it starts really showing you, no, it's just whenever it felt good, it felt beyond good. So therefore, I'm harping on the good to try to get that little dopamine hit back versus what's actually reality to my experience. So a great vetting thing to ask yourself or to look at is if you're more afraid of being alone than being without them, that's not love, that's emotional attachment. And the only way to fix that truly is to learn how to self-soothe and find ways to create a sense of security and validation and safeness inside of yourself, right? You have to cultivate that, meaning you have to ask yourself, which one of my needs was my ex meeting for me? Or were they, helping me to meet? The need for certainty, the need for significance, the need to feel loved or what have you. And ask yourself, how would I offer that to myself, right? What must I do to make myself feel secure and reassured? What must I do to make myself feel like I matter and like I'm special, right? What must I do to love on myself? How do I go and celebrate my value that I am, how the awesome person that I am? How do I honor that person, right? How do I protect that value, right? And how do I start pouring into and what I need to communicate and say to myself in respect to me celebrating my value so that I can truly feel that sense of validation and security and safeness and comfort with and by myself, and even familiarity. Because here's the thing, it can become a familiar thing for you to do toxic cycles, right? You can get used to the highs and the lows, and that feels like norm to you because that's what you've done all this time. So it's familiar, right? So without it, sometimes it can feel like there's something missing if you don't have this, full sense of passion, right? To where it's like really intense and then really horrible and all that stuff. Right. So even with that, asking yourself, how do I build a sense of familiarity with myself that feels exciting, but then I don't have lows, I just have norm, and then I have highs, right? To where it's all still healthy and positive, not toxic. So identify whether you're attached to them or the feeling they gave you. Start rebuilding yourself outside of that relationship. And stop romanticizing the good moments and remember why the relationship didn't work the first time around. And the day you start to truly realize that all that missing them is never about them at all, and it's more about you missing the things that you're not cultivating inside of yourself, it makes it so much easier for you to stop letting those stories run on loop and replay, and you can address them for what they really are and poke them, the holes in them for what they really are and the lies that they are, right? And find the truth and what you need to do to start turning inward, to truly focus on self, to reproduce what you feel you lost by your ex not being in your life. Now, if that's something you need help with and how to do that process and build the tools for that so you can stop going through that pain and that strain and that feeling like you can't just fully let them go and close that chapter, even though I know it's emotionally draining for you. If you want to stop that train, then email or DM me the word coaching. Don't comment under the video. Send me a DM. Coaching. But if you're not ready for one-on-one coaching, don't have the time or the space, maybe even the resources, I get that as well, then at least email or DM me the word revival to join my Relationship Revival Hub community, where you can learn the same things I teach my clients one-on-one at your own pace on your own time. Either way, do something to get in the race. Let's get it.